Hi and welcome to this video log with me, Wayne, from SwimCycleRunCoach. You'll note, the astute among you, that I'm standing up today for this video log, and that's because I just want to go over a common problem that I see, especially in masters swimmers swimming for triathlon, who've come to swimming perhaps late or as an adult. And that is a twist in the body. Now I do a lot of drills kicking on your side, so everything's pointing to the side of the pool, your thighs, your hips, your stomach, your chest, everything, except your head, which is looking slightly forward and down. And your arms are by your side, strapped to your side. And the aim is, if you're really pointing everything to the side of the pool, all you have to do is turn your head up to breathe and turn your head down again. If I was going the other way, I'd be swimming, looking forward and down, turn my head up to breathe, turn down again. That's the easy way. But what we see a lot of with master swimmers is this. They're swimming on this side, looking forward and down, and they lift their head to breathe, and their whole body sinks and becomes a slightly U-shape. Either that, or they literally lift their head and their whole back end slides into the water. So instead of swimming like that, suddenly we're tipped or we're curved, one or the other. Both of those lessen the streamline and slow you down when you're swimming, so we don't really want it. It also causes another problem. If you're worried about your breathing, that tends to happen at the front of the stroke. And if I do it sideways, that. So you're pushing down at the front of the stroke and you're not really getting a proper catch. Whereas what we want is that, so we can drive backwards. And it's often the case that we do this because we're breathing in the wrong place. We're breathing at the front of the stroke. Whereas what we should be doing is breathing at the back of the stroke. Yeah? As the stroke finishes, there we breathe. And you'll see I'm turned to the side. Now effectively the head would come up as you turn. But as you can see, my arm now is high because I'm on my side. Let's go to the computer. We'll have a look at a few examples of that and see what problems that causes at the front end of the stroke. Okay, so here we are looking at Steve at the front and Simon at the back. And although Steve's angle looks slightly better than Simon's here in relation to the surface of the water, we still have something going wrong at the front end because the back end is drooping away. And you can tell that from the top shot. We have a dual camera here. One at the top is exactly mirroring the one at the bottom. Sorry, they're not above each other, but they are exactly at the same level in terms of frame rate. You can see Simon's head and you can see his shoulder, and then from the shoulder, if you go down underneath, it's disappearing from the surface and you can see a slight bend in his back. Now the reason that it's disappearing from the surface is that he's lifted this head, and you can see that quite easily. With Steve on the front end, you can see on top it looks like he's keeping his arm to the surface right past the elbow, just down to the forearm there. But if you look below the water, what he's actually done is lifted the forearm away from his body. Now, that's a key element when you're doing this drill. Keep your arms right by your body. If you're kicking on your side, changing every breath, or even changing by length, kick on your side with your arms right by your side. And if at any point you feel the water going from the wrist here up towards your forearm, elbow, and past the elbow, you know that something at the front end has lifted, or you're not pressing your chest into the water from around that point there. You should be pressing your chest in the water from there, and then your hips will come up. Now you will find initially that the water will go from your arm, but you've got to learn to think about that and feel it and then adjust accordingly. And that's so important with this drill. Otherwise you're wasting the drill by lifting your head. You actually want to keep level in the water, very streamlined with everything, and your spine straight along with a line with the surface there. Okay, we'll just move forward a bit. And you see as he lifts his head, Simon's spine completely bends there. Now we're going to go to Dave here. Dave's got a better position in the water. You can see his arm is relatively flat in the water. You can see him underneath, his arm's there. He's actually got from his elbow, he's bending his arm down, which is why you can't see the rest of his body. But you can see the position in the water
is much straighter, but he has got his head buried. Now what tends to happen when you bury your head is you lift it to breathe, and we'll see if that happens with Dave at the back here. And he's just turning up to breathe, and there you go. You can see a bend in his neck, and as he bends his neck, the whole of the body is moving away from the surface. And once again, we're not being particularly streamlined when we do that. At the top picture, you can see his head's up, we've got this shoulder, and then it disappears from view because he's not got his arm effectively in line with the water, in line with his body. So everything's going. And also, you'll notice we're getting a real big kick here to try and push his head up to the surface. It's another effect of having a low back end in the water. You tend to have to kick your head up to the surface. Steve here, you can see him is in a slightly better position than he was before. You can see his arms totally out the water. It's against his body, and he's in a much nicer position. I'm just going forward frame by frame. You can see at the top, it's nice. He's going to turn to breathe in a second. And you see as he turns to breathe, he's cricking his neck sideways. And as he does that, at the top, we're slipping from the surface. You can see that now we haven't got an arm at the surface. But we have got a bent spine at the back there, a curved spine. And we don't really want that. We want the spine to be straight all the time and just rotating about that core. And that's hugely important in front crawl. Okay, we're going to go to above the surface in a second with Dave. There you go. That's a much better turn from Steve then. You can see from here, Dave has just put his arm into the water. You can see he's above the surface there. And what tends to happen with people who lift their head is they tend to push down in the water. You can see this push down in the water to get their head to the surface. But every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So what you see is that Dave comes under the water completely at the front end. You see he's completely disappeared from the top here. So he's completely under the water. And he's set up a loping motion, up and down. Now all of our effort in front crawl should be trying to drive us forward. If anything's driving us upwards and downwards, we know something's going wrong in terms of effort and we're wasting energy. See this loping motion that he's got here, up and down, because of that push down that he's got in his stroke. And the other arm, we'll just take a quick look at that. You can see again, he's pushing down with that arm. And he's pushing down with that arm because he's come under the surface here. And he's got to now push himself back up to the surface. He's pushing himself back up, pushing himself up to breathe. Now Dave is a fast swimmer. He can maintain on 1 minute 30, he can maintain 1:20s on a 2-minute turnaround time. You can see that arm is pushing down, that hand's pushing down. We want the arm much more in line with the shoulder, and then keep a high elbow, drop the hand to the bottom of the pool. That'll be much better. Steve has a slightly different problem. Steve whips into his catch. You can see it's whipping round, 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 and he's not really grabbing the water at the front. I think this may be a throwback from when he was taught to swim, because effectively coaches used to teach an S pattern, and he's going out for the S, in for the S, and then out again. And that is a pattern that used to be taught by coaches, but it's not very effective. Effectively what we want to, you see that cross over the centre line there, because he's doing the whip. If you look at this hand come in, it's coming in outside the shoulder width, then comes in, whips across, and then whips back out again. You can see all that sideways movement is detracting from forward movement. But Steve actually has a reasonably good catch. If we take it here, you can see that is moving down into a good catch. And what we'd like is an arm that's closer to the surface with an elbow high and then dropping the hand down into that position. We'll take it to his next stroke. You see that whip of the forearm. Now he's entering, crossing the centre line, coming back out, but then you see this nice look at a catch. But all these bubbles mean that he's not grabbed the water. And what we want from this point is a drive backwards, not a drive in, across, and out of the body that you'll see. So it goes in, across, out and back. So that's what we have to do with Steve to improve his overall stroke, and he will be able to improve over a short period of time.
Okay, I'm sitting down again now. There you have it. Keeping your body straight in the water is hugely important in swimming. It keeps you streamlined on the surface, and all you have to do to breathe is turn your body. A lot of problems in swimming, especially with adults, comes from the fact that they want to lift their head out the water, pushing down instead of going to the catch. That's a hugely important difference. Whipping the catch, not giving yourself time to hold the water and then drive it backwards. And that's what we want to do. We want to drive the water backwards and launch ourselves forward. Any sideways movement, like the old S that was taught in swimming, is a wasted movement because you're not really driving yourself forward as fast as you possibly can. But the move to catch in every stroke, breaststroke, butterfly, backstroke and front crawl, has to be slow. And then the stroke accelerates all the way through to the back to give you maximum power. Okay, that's all for this week. Next week, I'll probably be reviewing the Garmin Fenix 2, which looks to be just an amazing piece of kit. Okay, have a great bank holiday weekend. Let's hope it's good weather.